And tonight on the Daily Wrap, the Iran deal may have passed, but is it a done deal? We'll talk to former staff expert on the Iranian nuclear program, Fred Fleitz. Donald Trump pledged his support to the GOP today, but now he's waging war on Ben Carson. And a Kentucky county clerk is now in jail for refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with Rick Unger.
Welcome back.
It's been one hell of a week.
You know, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second of all, you got to tell everybody that little guy's name.
Liam Joseph Unger Concha. That's what I decided to go with. Because you're a co-host. You should be co in every part of my life.
Is it really Liam?
Yeah, Liam Joseph.
Nice, good name.
LJ, yeah.
I like it. LJ, cool. Very cool.
You got to have the initials to work with sometimes.
Cool.
Yeah,
very
so
cool.
It is very cool. We'll talk more about Liam Joseph later, but first, let's get right to the Daily Download. And the 34th vote backing the Iran deal means the most opponents can get to is 66 votes. They need 67 to override a veto. Let's use a Major League Baseball playoff race as a metaphor, shall we? So for the purposes of this discussion, 34 was the number needed in the win column to clinch a wild card spot in the Major League Baseball playoffs starting in October. Here is John Bachman with more.
34 was a number needed in the win column to clinch a spot in the wild card playoffs. But the White House may now push Senate Democrats to avoid the need for the president to break out his veto pen. For Obama, that would be like winning the division outright. Minority Leader Harry Reid only needs 41 votes for a filibuster. Right now, John Kerry and Joe Biden are working hard to wrap up the 10 Democrats still undecided. 34 plus 7 equals 41. So we can think of 7 as the magic number the administration needs to clinch the pennant and prevent a vote on the disapproval resolution. Mitch McConnell and opponents need 60 votes in the win column to do this. Only 2 Democrats, Senators Bob Menendez and Chuck Schumer, have defected. That leaves McConnell and opponents with just 56 votes, 4 games back, 4 votes shy of preventing a filibuster, and again, 13 votes short of killing the deal altogether.
Thank you, John. And on Tuesday, Congress will debate the resolution of disapproval in both the Republican-controlled House and Senate. It will pass in the House. That won't matter with the procedural situation in the Senate. And it's the Senate Foreign Relations Chair, Bob Corker, who's getting a lot of the blame for that. Joining us now is our friend, Fred Fleitz, the Senior Vice President for Policy and Program at the Center for Security Policy, who has 25 years' experience working with the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the State Department. You were also a staff expert on the Iranian nuclear program as well, so you're certainly the person to have here. Here's the first question I have, Fred, and this is what's always bothered me about this ever since I read the Associated Press report on this August 19th, where they said that Iran would have the ability to inspect their own sites. In essence, the New England Patriots inspecting their own footballs and saying everything's okay at the Parchin military site. Shouldn't that be end of negotiation when you can't verify independently whether there's nuclear activity going on or not?
Well, it was a strange report. The Associated Press confirmed that Iranians will be inspecting at Parchin, where activities related to developing nuclear warheads was being conducted, as well as resolving past activities related to the developed nuclear weapons, known as possible military dimensions. Now, the administration, the IAEA, tried to say, well, it's not true that the IAEA is turning over inspections to Iran. That's true, except in this instance, and this document that the Associated Press was shown proves this.
Fred, since you and I last spoke a few days ago, there's a narrative that's begun developing, and actually it's being pushed, maybe is the best word, by Donald Trump, suggesting that the way the agreement is written, were Israel to at any point attack Iran, that the United States would be obligated to take the side of Iran. Is that anywhere near true?
This is a very interesting question. Now, that is not in the agreement, which I have read very carefully. What the agreement says is that the West, including the United States, will provide nuclear technology to Iran, including fusion technology, which I found incredible, and will help Iran defend itself against sabotage, which means if it starts developing nuclear weapons in the future, the CIA can't try to take it out. But the real concern is there a side agreement where we promise to Iran that we will defend it against an Israeli attack? We don't know yet.
Well, here's, Well, let me first start with the language. The language that they're talking about in the actual agreement reads, cooperation through training or workshops to strengthen Iran's ability to protect against or respond to nuclear security threats, including sabotage. It seems to me a heck of a stretch to take that into a place where you're saying that we would be obligated to fight for Iran. Now, you raised the possibility of a side deal. Yeah, I suppose that's possible. There could also be a side deal that says that Prime Minister Netanyahu has to wear leggings when he visits Iran. It could be anything. You can't just pull that out of the air and say there could be a side deal.
I confirm what you said. What Trump said is not in the agreement.
Right.
We know there are oral understandings that are not in the agreement, too. For example, the provisions on how Iran will inspect itself mostly aren't written down. It's an informal agreement with the IAEA. These agreements frequently have side agreements, and there's speculation in Washington that Trump could be right. I'm not prepared to go that far. I'm just saying it could be right.
Is there evidence anywhere that would support an oral or side agreement suggesting that the U.S. would have to defend Iran in an attack by Israel?
I haven't seen any evidence of that, but I don't doubt that the Iranians have asked for that.
Isn't an oral agreement or these side deals, I keep hearing about these side deals and no one's seen them, aren't they dangerous? Because to me, if I'm just a regular guy sitting at home, it brings about ambiguity. Like, I don't know what's in the actual agreement, what's in the side deal. It just seems like this thing wasn't very well thought out, and it was kind of just done quickly. I know they did it over months and months, but in the end, just to get a deal, they got something on paper, and then it seems like the side deals almost supersede the regular deal. Am I wrong on that?
Well, the side deals address important questions concerning Iran's possible activities in making nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And the real concern is that when the administration couldn't resolve these, they somehow turned them over to the IAEA. Now, so these won't be shared with Congress. Well, the Corker-Cardin law, which is the basis of the vote next week, says all documents related to this agreement, including all side deals, have to be turned over. These won't be turned over, and I'm just wondering, how can any member of Congress vote for this deal when they're not being shown crucial documents associated with it?
Right, it's the whole point. One more question, and I'll let you jump back in. The $150 billion, excuse me, that Iran get, do they get that almost immediately without showing that they're going to adhere to any parts of verification or anything that was agreed upon within the agreement? In other words, money first and then verify later, or will it be done in stages the way it should be?
It will generally not be done in stages. On implementation day, which will be in about January, after Iran complies with some fairly easy-to-meet requirements. There's other sanctions that will be lifted later, and it'll be in the form of sanctions relief.
Okay.
Fred, I was talking with Ambassador Woolsey yesterday, who very much shares your opinion on this deal. He's not in favor of it.
Would be constitutionally valid, but I don't think there's any legal move Congress can make to force the president to turn this into a treaty.
So in the end, this is what it is, and it's going to go forward, and whether you like it or not, and even though the president only has 34 of 66, or excuse me, of 100 votes, it's going to pass, and this is what it is.
And to say this is a great victory, the president has a third of one house, and they're doing victory laps. This is rejected by a 2-to-1 margin by the American people. This isn't much of a victory.
I actually don't agree with that, but we'll let it go.
Well, share your thoughts on the Iran deal. I'm sure they're interesting by going to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Coming up, Donald Trump.
And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. The rest of our panel has now joined us. To my right, she's the founder and executive director of the Accountability Project. Nomiki Konst is here. And to her right, she's an anchor for the Blaze TV and part of Sag Harbor's cultural elite.
Oh.
Amy Holmes joins the panel. Welcome, guys.
You're still on that, huh?
Still on that. We're going to stick with it. If we like it, we stay with it. All right, so the chance of a Trump third-party candidacy appears to have vanished today as Donald Trump signed a pledge stating that he would not run as a third-party candidate while further agreeing to support the eventual nominee of the Republican Party.
I have signed the pledge.
Yeah.
So I will be totally pledging my allegiance to the Republican Party and the conservative principles for which it stands.
The agreement to keep Mr. Trump within the GOP, win or lose, came after a morning meeting at the Trump offices with Republican National Chairman Reince Priebus. In a press conference called to announce the accord, Trump went out of his way to say that the party had offered him nothing in exchange for his pledge, leaving himself what would appear to be very little wiggle room should he wish to recant on the promise in the event he fails to achieve his party's nomination. However, we are talking about Donald Trump, where the rules don't ever seem to be quite the same as they are for everyone else. Joe, can we completely believe that the Donald will honor his pledge should he end up losing the nomination?
Can I answer your question with a question?
Sure.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No.
You have no free will. You have to sign that you will never run as a third-party candidate. It's insane.
It's pretty weird.
Jake Tapper's probably upset because CNN has the next debate, and he can't pull a Brett Baer and say, raise your hands, and the same thing. This is what this is about, to take that off the table, Rick.
Well, it's interesting. I actually know I looked at the document, okay? There's nothing I can find. I'm an old lawyer, right? I can't find any legal obligation.
No. Right.
So he can, it's almost like making a pledge to give money to a charity. There's nothing they can do if you don't do it.
And actually, all the other Republican candidates claim to have also signed it, but no one cared. No, thousand.
Yeah, where'd they go?
Exactly. We're all 1,000 press members of the press didn't show up at their, signing of. And by the way, it was the wrong date. So I'd like to know. Maybe he signed this a month ago.
Did
you know that he signed August? He signed the wrong date. We didn't actually see him sign it. This is a conspiracy theory in action, by the way.
Amy, give us a quickie on this. Do you think he will honor it or not if he loses the nomination?
If he loses, well, he promised to stop attacking Megyn Kelly, and he started back up again
there you have
when
it.
she got back from her vacation. And I think Donald Trump is the master of wiggling, and he has wiggled himself to the front of the line when it comes to the GOP primary race with all of this. As you say, it's not legally binding. I can certainly see him trumping up a context to rip it in half.
Wordplay.
So it was likely only a matter of time, you guys, until Trump finally got around to insulting yet another of his opponents looking for the GOP nod. This time, it was Ben Carson on the receiving end of a charm offensive Trump style. In an interview with the Daily Caller, Trump had this to say: "I think it's a very difficult situation that he be placed in. He's really a friend of mine. I just think it's a very difficult situation that he puts himself into. To have a doctor who wasn't creating jobs and would have a nurse or maybe two nurses. In other words, he's never managed anything. He's only been in charge of a nurse or two." My question is
this one of Donald Trump's fantasies? What is he talking about?
Will the Trump base, who also have positive feelings towards Ben Carson, will they react well to this comment? Let's go with Nomi on this. Or will they have a problem with it?
I actually think they're not reacting well to Trump. I think that the people who would possibly side with Trump that might be a little bit more reasonable, might want a little bit of a toned-down rhetoric, are going to Carson, and they won't react well to Trump. The difference is, after this press conference, Trump has changed his entire conversation. He didn't get into immigration. He deflected on a lot of conservative issues that were brought up as a question.
He got into a little bit of immigration.
A little bit, but he was much more reasonable. He sounded like he was proposing a more comprehensive, except for the wall, plan for immigration reform. He was only talking about jobs. Towards the end, he basically said, "I will be your leader, and I will help you create jobs."
Well, actually, Nomi's got a point there, Joe. Sitting there at the press conference, you could noticeably tell there was some shift. He was going towards the jobs thing. You think that we're now reaching the point in the Trump campaign where he's trying to get away from his rather extreme immigration position and move towards jobs?
There's only so many ways you could describe building a wall, right? And this wall, by the way, would go from Key West to Maine. That's quite a wall. Yes. So yes,
on the East Coast.
On the East, yeah, of course the East Coast. What are you talking about?
Not along Mexico?
Yeah. Anyway, Rick, you know what I mean. It would be that long, just to put it in perspective. The point is that Donald Trump's strength is that he has been a good businessman. You know, he has made those billions of dollars somewhere. He brings the bankruptcies, but overall, he's hitting pretty well right now. So changing the conversation is the way to go. And he has a point about Ben Carson. What is Ben Carson's business experience? What jobs has he ever created?
Well, but why is it, Amy? Why would business experience be the relevant thing? None of them have any political experience. Trump doesn't have it. Carson doesn't have it. Carly Fiorina doesn't have it. Why is he picking on Ben Carson for not being a businessman now?
Well, because being a business person is Donald Trump's trump card. But his insult of Dr. Carson about the nurses, it sounds more like one of Donald Trump's midnight fantasies than an actual
male nurses,
right, than an actual political critique. I think that Ben Carson's fans are actually going to ignore it. That this is going to be gone with the summer, with September or August rather. But the point being, when he insults Jeb Bush on low energy, that really hits.
Well, what I want to know is who is your pick for the 2016 GOP nomination. You got to let us know at newsmaxpolls.com, and be sure to get your copy of Ben Carson's book, One Nation, getting it absolutely free. All you have to do is pay $4.95 to cover the cost of shipping. You can do it by calling 1-800-485-4350. That's 1-800-485-4350, or visit newsmax.com/Ben and do it right now. Coming up next, a Clinton aide is taking the fifth. We'll tell you why.
And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Let's check in with the Lord of the Manor, Steve Malzberg, and see what he has planned for tonight. Steve, hey!
Joe, Roger Stone will be here to talk about Donald Trump signing the pledge not to run as a third-party candidate. Alan Dershowitz will be here to weigh in on the Iran deal. He actually says a filibuster in the Senate would be a good thing. That's the opposite of what Dick Cheney told us yesterday. And the woman, the clerk in Kentucky who won't issue the gay marriage licenses or the marriage licenses to gay couples, is now in jail. All that's coming up right after the Daily Wrap, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Newsmax Television.
It's a really serious proposition because in those senior positions in the government, as Vice President, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, they deal all the time with highly classified information. And the notion that somehow you've got a server out there someplace that's not even in a secure environment, then the possibility of shipping classified material in the form of emails is very, very serious. In the government, we take that kind of problem very, very seriously, and she has to too.
And that, of course, was Vice President Dick Cheney with our own Steve Malzberg yesterday. According to the Washington Post, Hillary Clinton has even more email problems. Brian Pagliano, I believe he played third base for the Yankees at one point, a former State Department employee who worked, that was Pagliarulo, who worked on Mrs. Clinton's private email server, tried to beat back a subpoena this week from the House Benghazi panel, with his lawyers saying that he would invoke his Fifth Amendment rights to avoid incriminating himself. No word on whether Lois Lerner will be hired as Mr. Pagliano's Fifth Amendment tutor. Pagliano had worked on Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign before setting up the server in her New York home in 2009. Benghazi Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy had subpoenaed Pagliano to appear at the Benghazi hearing. Rick, are you surprised that someone so close to the servers is keeping his mouth shut?
You know, this is always so tough when you get into these taking the fifth conversations. You know, to a lawyer like me, I hear that and I go, well, yeah, of course, because that's what I would advise virtually any client appearing before Congress in an investigation
And
hearing.
to a layman like me, I say you're trying to hide something.
Exactly. To the average person, they hear Fifth Amendment, that means you don't want to tell the truth about something. So this is the problem. You know, there's a reason the Fifth Amendment is in the Constitution. It does not immediately infer guilt. In this case, I suspect this young guy, who really could not have been all that involved in he couldn't have been involved in the crimes. All he could do was set up a computer.
He worked on her campaign in 2008.
But he's
he's an IT guy.
He's
not dealing with, you know, sending
so
her.
Should have nothing to hide then?
Well, he probably doesn't. That's my point. You know, he wasn't involved with anything involving classified data. He set up computers. So, but yet the minute he takes the fifth, there's going to be problems with it.
Okay.
Which is why the Clinton campaign, by the way, did not want him to take the fifth.
Right. Which is,
the chairman of the Ready for Biden campaign.
Ready for Biden.
Right. Now, I know you're liberal, all right, but at the same time, to Rick's point, all right, yes, he has every right to his Fifth Amendment rights. That's very clear. But optics has always been Hillary Clinton's problem from day one on this and how she responds to things.
Yep.
And so here, I think that takes precedent in the court of public opinion, not so much the court of, where lawyers like Rick are. Go ahead.
She has no control over him. Go ahead, Naomi.
I think she has a little control.
No, I don't think she does.
You don't think somebody got a hold of him and
said,
Who
are you going to listen to, your ex-employer or your lawyer?
I'm going to listen to both, probably.
You're not going to listen to your ex-employer. What do you care about your ex-employer?
I worked on her campaign. I'm in her home. I'm in basements. I'm setting up servers. She's offering up lemonade.
It's not just you're in a courtroom. You're sitting before Trey Gowdy, and a bunch of ambitious, ruthless politicians are going to be asking you questions as somebody who's not. These IT guys, I mean, even though he was the State Department IT person and worked on her campaign, he's not a politician. He's not Cheryl Mills. Now, Cheryl Mills, if she's the one who pleads the fifth, then that's when you have to sit there and say, that's different.
That's fair.
Well, look, it's a federal crime to aid or abet another person's crime, which might be something that he's concerned about. Whether or not he actually did, whether it's reasonable. Clearly, he's invoking his Fifth Amendment because he doesn't want to get in that that whole mess. But it doesn't mean that he can't be hauled in front of the committee and asked these questions. And each time he will say, "I invoke the Fifth. I invoke the Fifth. I invoke the Fifth." And let me tell you that it's going to be the worst political optics for Hillary Clinton to see this young guy refusing to answer over and over and over.
We got to be careful not to mislead. There is no federal crime against setting up a computer for somebody.
No matter how they use it. Let me tell you exactly how every news organization will, like Amy's saying. I take. How do you normally say this? You say
I refuse to answer on the grounds of
my Fifth Amendment rights, right? And then they play it over and over again. And you know how it's going to be cut with every media organization. Say it.
I'm not arguing with any of you about the optics of it. No argument. You're all right, but it isn't right.
No, I agree.
She's not going to make it past this.
Well, here's the thing. Congress could grant congressional immunity if 2/3 of the committee votes to give him immunity. The question is, could Republicans get Democrats to get on board with that? They'd have to weigh him blabbing in the committee hearing versus invoking the Fifth. Which looks worse for Hillary? I'm not sure.
Naomi, last word.
I don't think that Hillary's going to be able to get over this. This is the news story every single day as the hearings go on. She's done.
And yet 80% approval among Democrats.
Because they see
Iowa,
her as a vessel to power, not because they believe in her. Right?
It's the slipping numbers in the primary
Watch
states.
that jump. Anyway, share your thoughts on Hillary Clinton's email scandal by going to newsmax.com, tv./comments. Yes, up next, Kentucky clerk refusing to issue marriage licenses. We'll tell you all about it. Stay tuned.
Kim Davis, the Kentucky County Clerk who has refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples despite a court order requiring her to do the same, was taken into custody today after a judge found Ms. Davis in contempt of court. The judge said Ms. Davis will be released if and when she agrees to resume issuing marriage licenses. Now, for those who have been following this story, you know Ms. Davis, her situation has raised a few important questions regarding religion and the law. Kim Davis feels the Supreme Court ruling goes against her religious beliefs, arguing that she answers to only one authority, God, and that as a result she is precluded from issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Well, now she's in jail, and the question becomes, what is the right way to go here? Presidential hopeful Mike Huckabee, who has been very outspoken about religious freedom in America, posted a tweet in support of Kim Davis this morning. That tweet read, "Kim Davis in federal custody removes all doubts about the criminalization of Christianity in this country. We must defend #religious liberty." Huckabee went on to claim that Davis is following the laws of the state of Kentucky, which prohibited gay marriage prior to the Supreme Court's ruling striking down that law. So the question remains, should Kim Davis be in jail right now? I'm going to answer my own question first, because I have a lot of sympathy for Kim Davis. I think she's sincere in her religious beliefs. I think she's got a conflict, and I would recommend she resolve that conflict in a different way than she's been doing it. I have a real problem with Mike Huckabee. a man who wants to be president of the United States and is demagoguing to the point where he stands before the nation today and he pretends there's no such thing in the Constitution as the Supremacy Clause. Yes, Kentucky did have a law that barred same-sex marriage, but Governor Huckabee, having run a state, are you unaware of the fact that when the Supreme Court strikes down that law as being unconstitutional, the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, which you claim to believe in to the letter, prohibits the state from continuing it? That's my rant, Joe. What do you have to say?
I love it when you know that all these people are watching this show like Huckabee and you talk right at him.
Yeah.
You sound like Dirty Harry
I
there.
can't stand a demagogue, and what he's doing is just shameful.
I think folks at home are confused by this issue because they see somebody saying, I have these religious beliefs and that should supersede anything that goes on in my workplace. I had these beliefs before I took this job, and now suddenly I have to conform to what I'm being told, what is against every fiber of my being. So I understand. I'm like you.
And
I
the
understand.
answer is yes, because the Constitution says so.
Well, the Bible says another thing.
No, actually, the Bible doesn't say another thing. Do you know
Really?
that the Bible specifically advises people to follow the laws
Render
of the
unto
land?
Exactly.
So listen, I actually was a notary public for 2 summers in college
Our
where I
condolences.
sold and certified marriage licenses. And I can tell you that if I used my own personal judgment, half of those people wouldn't have gotten one. I tell you, after having this job, I'm surprised the divorce rate isn't higher. These are people who didn't know each other's middle names, each other's birthdays, flirted with me. I mean, it was a complete circus.
Wait, while they're going to get the marriage license, they're actually flirting with you at the same time?
Oh yeah, she'd be filling it out. and
Those
you'd
are
be like,
people ready
oh,
to
yeah,
get married.
Oh,
Really?
absolutely.
She was, I mean, Kim Davis was
home
married
with
4
dish.
times.
It was my...
Yeah, but I don't hold that against
Right.
her. You know,
No,
that's
but hold-
irrelevant.
But let me
But
finish
if
my
you're
point. Let me finish my point. It was my duty as a public official, as a notary public, to grant these people whatever I thought about their union, their marriage license. Kim Davis has been married 4 times. If she went to a county where the person behind the counter was an Orthodox Catholic, would she be very happy when that person said, I don't believe in multiple marriages, you can only have one, I'm sorry about the other 3? If you're Muslim, do you think it's a very good idea to go and work for the liquor licensing department and not give out liquor
And
licenses?
by the way, what if that person goes into the county clerk's office asking for a gun license?
Right. Or what if
And
your
that clerk
religion
says no.
Right.
The 10 Commandments say thou shalt not kill. I'm sorry, I can't give you a gun license.
Or what
You're
if
going
your
to feel
religion,
the same way?
What if your religion tells you, compels you to be polygamous? Would that person behind the counter, if that person's polygamous, say, I'm going to just keep giving out marriage licenses as many times as this
Noni,
person
you
walks
want in on this before we
Really,
end?
you can't do that.
There's so many analogies here. I mean, you could take the Bible by firm context and say, if I want to stone a gay man, would you be allowed to do that? There's so many different details of the Bible that I think that Christian conservatives right now are hand-selecting them and using them against the law of the land right now.
Not all Christian
No,
conservatives.
I mean, but
Kim
certain-
Davis and her supporters.
This
there are
isn't done out of
certain-
anything malicious, though, I don't think.
No, I don't
she's
think
not
so.
doing
I'm
it
not
because
saying that
she's
it's malicious,
a
but I'm
homophobe.
saying that-
She's doing it because this is what she believes.
But there are lots of things. I mean, I'm actually of the same religion she is, and there are a lot of things in my religion that conflict with her way of life as well. And I think that you just brought up a bunch of those analogies. You know, the question here is, at what point is your religious right impeding on the human rights and the constitutional rights of others?
At the end of the day, I don't want to see this woman in jail. I think she needs to realize she's got a conflict, and you resolve the conflict either by doing
quitting.
your job or quitting.
Right.
Work for the
Now,
federal
all
government.
that said, she will be a martyr, and
Yes, she
her
will.
popularity will only grow
Yes,
with
it
the
will.
people that think
She'll have
she's
a reality
right.
show.
Okay,
show.
do you think, oh wait, this is me. Do you think Kim Davis should be in jail? Let us know at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Coming up next, we're going to read some of your viewer comments. Stay with us.
And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Let's read some of your viewer comments. First up, we have a comment on Donald Trump wanting to build a wall on the southern border. We discussed it before. Rayshawn says, Israel built a wall and it seems to be working really well there. Many don't want the wall built because of special interests. Many corporations want the cheap labor. I'm sick of paying for illegals, he says. Rick.
Yeah, I do want to just quickly respond to that because, yes, Israel built a wall. You should go and find yourself a video of that wall, and you'll see that you and I, an old guy like me, can hop over that wall. The reason it works so well in Israel is the patrolling that goes on along that wall. You can make an argument for that if that suits what you have in mind, but just we should be factual about that wall.
Trump is a builder, by the way. So
yes, he is a
build
builder.
better wall.
And I'll bet you he'd build it with a golden beautiful door in it.
With Trump.
That's what he
You
said
have
he would
to-
do. That's what he said.
Well, there is money there.
only
You could
allow
very, like
models.
stadium rights, how you name stadiums.
Right,
We can name
Trump.
parts of the wall.
The Trump
Right?
wall.
Rio Grande.
Unless we miss Mexico, we're not letting you in through the wall.
James says, we need a wall at our southern border. Donald Trump says it like it is, and now the naysayers are making light of it. They are echoing the do-nothing Congress, and it is a shame that a man who knows what needs to be done be portrayed as a fool. I don't think there's too many people portraying Donald as a fool right now. So
You don't lead in polls when people think you're a fool.
yeah,
Ben Carson.
What's that?
I think
you
you're
think
right.
Ben Carson's a fool?
you do.
I think he's a little bit limited.
Oh,
in his-
really?
Sir.
You
I-
could,
I
could
do.
you separate
You
a joint of
can be-
twins?
No.
You know what I mean?
There's a difference between being very intelligent,
Yes.
being wise, and a fool.
What
I
makes
think
him
he's
a
very
fool?
What makes him a
intelligent.
fool?
He has no command of his policy. I mean, he sits there and you ask him simple questions, and he has no depth in policy.
I don't think
And
I'd go
that's-
fool. I'd go
Yeah,
something else
that's
that I
not
could
good.
If you're
work
running
with.
for president, isn't it wise to have some sort of understanding of policy? I actually think Donald Trump has a better command of
It
issues.
is, but that does. I
Right.
don't.
Then-
I
agree.
can't
That
go to
makes him a
fool, though.
Yeah.
You're
I
jumping
think
to a
that's
word
foolish.
that I don't think applies
I
here.
think that's foolish.
You
To
think
run
it's
for
foolish, I'm
president
saying?
and not know your issues, I think that's.
Many have and many have won.
Well, they have some strong backers.
That's-
Okay. Anyway, David says, here's an idea to control illegal immigration. Thailand and Brazil require exit forms be turned in when you leave the country. You must give your address and exit date. We should do the same. Failure to do so in the USA could be a mandatory $500 fine, like a parking ticket. That's a big parking ticket. And or we could require a $5,000 bond. With foreign students, we require a change of address and notification from landlord. Failure to comply means deportation and no re-entry. P.S. I like this part. I just discovered your show and I enjoy the style and ability to have two, or in this case 4, opposing opinions reasonably presented without the hate and zero objectivity. Thank you. That's exactly
on.
what this show is.
David.
We are
We have
pragmatic.
zero
It's intelligent. It's not foolish. I mean, there's not a show like this on television. I'm
what's
sorry.
Double
the
negative.
zero,
It
what's
was
the
a double
zero
negative. I was
objectivity?
gonna-
Yeah, that you make a point there.
I'm being
Grammar,
serious though.
please.
There is not a show
No,
like this
there's
on
not.
television in terms of people being able to share views and it doesn't tilt one way or the other. And I don't have talking points and people just with skin in the game. This is a smart show. It's a good show, and that viewer gets it. Tell your friends.
What a commercial.
Yeah, well.
Here is a comment about the Iran deal from Randall, who says, my Iran nuke deal opinion. What were our politicians thinking? And now, after the dust has settled, let us all hope and pray that neither America nor our friend Israel will ever get to experience the wishes of the mullahs. Okay, look, this is I'm going to actually go into this. Yesterday, I had a long conversation here on the set. I interviewed Ambassador Woolsey, who is a person who I have enormous respect for. He is very much against this deal. There is another gentleman out there who I also have enormous respect for, whose name is George Mitchell. Thank you. I just lost it. A one-time senator, just a great negotiator, majority leader.
Yeah.
And he is coming down in favor of this deal. Now, these are two men whose opinions I value greatly, with great experience, and they disagree, which happens. But it leaves somebody like myself who's not looking to back a political horse. I'm looking for the right answer.
Well, John Bolton says it's too late, whatever you
Now,
think.
John
about
Bolton's
the
not somebody
No,
I
and
listen
that-
to anyhow.
But that's actually a
But-
very good point. It's too late.
Yeah, it
you
is
can't
too
go
late.
back.
Yep, it's
the
done.
toothpaste is out of the tube, as we like to say.
Can't unring the
you like
bell
saying that?
anymore.
Yeah.
I like that one. You can't put Humpty Dumpty back together. There's plenty of ways you can go with that.
But you
Anyway,
can bell the cat.
You can bell the
Ooh.
What is
cat.
belly
Never
the
heard that one before. Anyway, I got
know
to
what
move
that
on. Finally tonight, here's a comment regarding the Kentucky County Clerk we were just talking about from John, who says the woman in Kentucky took an oath to uphold the laws, but where in the Constitution is the Supreme Court given the right to make law? They
answer that.
overstepped their authority and usurped the power of the legislator, and they need to be slapped down. Congress needs to consider impeaching a few justices, Ricky. How's that going to work out?
Well, nowhere in the Constitution is the Supreme Court granted the right to make law. However, the pivotal landmark case of Marbury v. Madison gives the Supreme Court the right to interpret the
Google
law.
it, read it.
Big
Okay.
difference.
Remember, if you want to weigh in on any of these issues we talk about here in the night, be sure to go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know what you think. And be sure to get your copy of Ben Carson's book, One Nation. Nomi has it absolutely free. All you have to do is pay $4.95 to cover the cost of shipping. He's not a fool. Call 1-800-655-7567. That's 1-800 655-7567 or visit newsmax.com/Ben right now. Up next, it's time for Yay or Nay. It's happy time. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's time for Yay or Nay, otherwise known as Happy Time. And yes, since I'm the co-host of a nationally, and a show really, Rick, that we've heard from people around the world, one of the perks, besides obviously the suits that Newsmax gives me, is showing off my baby pictures. Yes, I've been out for the last week, as most of you know. So let's put up a couple of Liam Joseph. Gotcha. That's a good-looking kid. I mean, most kids look like Winston Churchill or Don Zimmer. This kid actually is good-looking. I'm not being biased in any way, shape, or form. Well, maybe I am. Let's show a couple more, shall we? We only have about 24.
Oh,
do we have any more photos? That's it?
What about the baby?
Of course not.
There we go.
There is my wife. She was a stunt double for Courtney Cox way back
Wow,
then.
you got her to marry?
That's amazing. He married up in a big way.
Yeah, SoColine helped. And also
she's had a
there's
baby.
my daughter, Cameron. And that's when she
she's
meets the
gorgeous.
baby for the first time at the hospital, and she loves her little brother. She actually...
We lose the audience after 3 pictures.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So let's move on. But thank you, Rick, for your sensitivity. I really
Now, had you
appreciate
just
it.
played a baseball game? Is that why you were wearing that?
No, I figured, boy, so I own about 40, 45 jerseys.
Oh, my.
And that was a
Wow.
San Diego Padres one. I just figure I'm a Padre, I'm a father. It was
Oh, right.
made
Thought about
sense,
it.
right?
Creative process.
Oh, absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Beautiful.
It's my second child, and he's healthy, mom's healthy, everything is well. So, anyway, we have to transition to this now, and boy, won't this be awkward.
You never asked the yay or nay question.
What is
he
the yay or
cute,
nay
yay or
question?
nay? Yay.
Oh, is he cute? Well,
Is-
we already
you
answered
said,
that.
is this not the cutest baby in the world?
Yay or nay?
And I was going to say, lucky for you,
Yes.
my youngest grandchild
Yes.
is no longer a baby. He's now a toddler, so I can say yay.
Okay, very good.
Yay. So yay. Yay.
I don't agree with cute. I would say handsome.
Handsome.
It's a little
Yeah.
early for
Yeah.
handsome.
Wait,
He's
do
got-
it. Do it.
Let
like
him own
Trump.
his cuteness.
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic.
Okay, so we
Triple
have
yay.
yays across the board,
Triple
bobbleheads,
yay.
and that's what I like. Okay, now for the awkward transition. A transgender high school student named Lila was offered a non-gender private changing room. She is refusing to use the private room, saying she wants to be in the girls' locker room with everyone else. Should the school accommodate Lila? Yay or nay, Amy Holmes?
Nay.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were perfectly reasonable in offering this option of a private room. Also in the story, the girls are uncomfortable with Lila being in the locker room. Lila has not undergone full reassignment surgery, so when they change, while she is self-identifying as female, naked, that won't necessarily be the case. Look, when I was in high school, I remember being so self-conscious about my body. I wouldn't change in front of anyone, not even my mother. I can't imagine changing in front of someone who, under her clothes, is a boy.
Interesting. Nomi, quickly?
I think this is a confusing new world that we live in, legally for the administration, but also I think culturally younger people are more open to the trans. I mean, it's just something that you talk about. It's out in the press, and it's,
Sure. But it seems
the
reasonable
girls
just to
in
give her
this high
private room
school-
for now
Exactly.
until
I
things
think
are
that's a
I,
good transition.
I don't
resolved.
know what I think about this. I really don't.
Okay, let's move on. Here's one for you sports fans out there. New England Patriot quarterback Tom Brady cannot be deflated. A federal judge erased the quarterback's 4-game suspension that followed last year's Deflategate scandal, where the Patriots were accused of deflating the team's footballs, saying NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell went too far punishing the Super Bowl winning player and MVP. This is not the end of the scandal, however, as the National Football League has appealed the ruling. That case will likely take months, meaning if you're in a fantasy football league, might be a good idea to take Brady probably around second round, because he will be playing opening night Thursday, September 10th, when the Patriots host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, all of that said, I've been saying from the very beginning, this is just like the movie A Few Good Men. You don't know if Tom Brady specifically ordered the code red. In other words, you don't know if he specifically had those balls deflated. There could have been people, proxies, acting on behalf for him because they think that's what he wanted, but there is no evidence saying, Amy Holmes, boy, you're getting angry, that he made the order. Take it quickly. We only have
Joe,
20
I
seconds.
can't handle the truth.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that Trump
I
wall.
only hope that the rumors are not true that he and Giselle might be divorcing.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what I heard also. Nomi,
In
quickly.
touch. This sounds just like the IT guy. He didn't take the order. We don't know. Did he take the orders? Was it intentional? We don't know.
We don't know, but he's going to be playing.
The judge is the big winner. He got this exactly right.
He did, didn't he?
There was no evidence, and you can't have the guy who's the arbitrator handing out the penalty.
Perfect way to end this show. Thank you so much, panel. We really appreciate you coming here. Robust debate, great show. Anyway, on behalf of the rest of the panel, I thank you for joining us tonight. The Steve Malzberg Show. That's next.